Hi, welcome back to Boxes of Lights. In this series we're playing Pathfinder adventure card game, Rise of the Rune Lords. Now that we know what we've got to do, we've got to set up the town of Sandpoint. And the locations that make up Sandpoint are described on this card, on this scenario card. The game comes with a set of location cards, and the number of location cards we use depends on the number of adventurers we have, the number of characters we're playing. I've got a 3-player game set up here, but I'm playing solitaire. The game can be played solitaire, absolutely fine, it's a cooperative game. But if you're going to play solitaire, yes, you can just use one character if you wish, but don't, okay? You're losing so much, and you know, all the interaction and a lot of the cards, you need at least 2 characters. I'm going to play with 3 because I think 3 is a great number. Playing with one character on his own, it's not as fun. It's nowhere near the game that multiple characters bring. So I'm playing solitaire with 3 players. So I look on the Attack of Sandpoint scenario card. I look to here, and it tells me that I need to include all locations: Town Square, Swallowtail Festival, City Gate, Sandpoint Cathedral, and the Rusty Dragon. And I'll leave out the Old Light, the Wooden Bridge, and the Desecrated Vault. With just the base game, you're going to get a huge stack of locations, right? And we're going to be only using a handful of these for each scenario. So let's go and grab the location cards that we need to create the city of Sandpoint. The city's not complete without a local inn. The rest go back to the box. Next we need to build each of these locations' location deck. Each card has a deck list, and it tells you what's going to appear at that location. We have different types of cards that appear at locations: barriers, monsters, weapons, spells, armors, items, allies, and blessings. So you can see that barriers and monsters, they're going to be things that are going to be standing in our way. Barriers, kind of like traps and so on. Encounters. Monsters, they're things we're going to have to fight. And then these other stuff are things that we can find, like treasures. Okay? And perhaps this is another way that maybe the expectations of this is an RPG in a board game box type game might have perhaps not lived up to the hype a little bit, but it's fine. It's not. I'm not trying to diss it. I'm just saying maybe the expectations are too high. And that is when you're playing a role-playing game, you know, the types of encounters are kind of, there's an infinite supply. You're limited only by your imagination. You know, you can have puzzles to solve and, you know, mazes to explore. You know, that kind of puzzle element, and that's not here because, but not yet. That doesn't mean that further adventures might add those kind of puzzle elements. But at the moment they're not there. There's things that stand in your way, and you've got to defeat them. Right, but there's treasuring and it's exploring. It's kind of like a dungeon crawl type experience, if you're familiar with that term, where you're going around locations. These are different spots on the map, fighting monsters, getting treasures. What's going to spring out and take you by surprise is completely unknown. It really is a surprise, the treasures you find, the monsters you fight. But you know, you don't have that kind of interaction with the game that you will in an RPG, because there's not that fluid, infinite, you know, imagination part, and that's always going to be the case. I think perhaps one place where they could potentially add more of that puzzly type stuff is in these barrier type cards. So if we want to set up the town square location deck, it says we need 1 barrier. And to do this, these are the barrier cards. So they've got things like a slashing blade. So you've got to use your imagination. You know, you've come to this location. There's this big, you know, Edgar Allan Poe-esque slashing blade, kind of like Indiana Jones, perhaps. You know, and you've got to avoid it. You've got to duck under it. I mean, if you peel away the theme and just look at the mechanic, it says roll a die and do this. But that's not the point. If you're not willing to give to this game, you're not going to get anything out, all right? But you know, there's potential here, I think, in this barrier deck, secret stash, pit trap, treasure map, to kind of add more of that RPG experience. I'm looking forward to finding out what barriers get added throughout the adventures. So all we need to do for town square is grab one random barrier. So you shuffle this up. I'm going to do this off camera in a moment, but you grab one barrier card and that's it. We've created part of the location. Next, we grab two monsters. This is our monster decks. This is a huge thick thing. There's loads of different monsters in here. So again, we shuffle it up. And what did we want? Two monsters, I think it was, for this location. So we've got one barrier, two monsters. Then we need some good stuff, some booty. We've got a weapon, two spells, one item, two allies. Okay, so you go and grab a random weapon. Alright, so shuffle these up, grab a random weapon, and so on and so on. Until we've created a deck, and I think is it 10 cards in each one? 9 cards in each one. So I'm going to go and build out these location decks, and then show you what you need to do next. Okay, so we've got all of our 5 location decks, 9 cards, and they're all kind of shuffled up. For example, we've got the Swallowtail Festival up here. It's got a couple of blessings, a barrier, a monster, 2 monsters actually. There's no barriers at the cathedral. There are a couple of monsters, but there's a lot of blessings. The Rusty Dragon, you can find allies, a couple of monsters. Alright, so there's a variety of mixes here. And each location's also got its special text, so different things can happen when you go there. We'll get into that once we start the game. The next thing we need to do is add the villains and the henchmen. And again, we need to go back to our scenario card. And on here it tells you who the villain is. Rip Nugget and Stickfoot. And the henchmen are Sutu Kaijitsu and Goblin Raiders. So run off to our box once more. We need to find Rip Nugget and Stickfoot. I think that's one guy, not two. Yeah, Rip Nugget and Stickfoot. He's this goblin fighter with his gecko steed. Remember, our aim is to take this guy out. But he's got a load of henchmen with him. Now you take one each of these guys. So we'll take one. What are we looking for? Goblin Raiders. One of those. One of those. Okay, so take one of these, one of these. And now we need to fill up the rest of the deck. Because what's going to happen is that one of these is going to go to each location. We've got 5 locations on the board. So 1, 2, 3. We need 2 more. And what you need to do is take whichever henchman was listed last, in this case Goblin Raiders, and fill out the rest of the locations with Goblin Raiders. So I need 2 more Goblin Raider cards. Right, so there's my 5 villain/henchmen. But I don't want to know who's where, alright? So you've got to give these a good old shuffle. And then once you're happy, you're done, and you've shuffled like crazy, deal 1 to each location, and then shuffle these guys into those locations. So you don't know where within each location those henchmen or villains are. Okay, all done. And now we need to create a timer for the game. Alright, you don't have an infinite amount of time here to go and explore these locations. You've got a certain amount of time. If we don't go and rescue the city of Sandpoint by defeating this villain within 30 turns, then we've lost and Sandpoint is overrun. And the way we do this is we go and grab this big stack of blessing cards. We're going to give it a good shuffle. Although we've already shuffled it from when we set up the locations. And we draw 30 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 30. These 30 cards are going to act as our timer. And every round, we're going to draw one of these cards. And if we get through this whole deck, then we lose the game. We've already chosen our player order. We need to take these character cards, choose where people are going to go. So these kind of represent our characters, okay, and which locations they're going to. Now you can, if you want, keep everyone together. Let's say everyone meets at the town square. We'll place them all here. Maybe people want to split up. So Valeros, who's known to like a drink or two, might head off to the Rusty Dragon. Hask, who likes to be out in the open, might go to the festival. And Linny, the rogue, maybe she's going to head to the city gate. So you can spend, or the cathedral. You can do what you like. When you're playing solitaire, obviously you've got a choice of getting your guys working together or splitting them up, and it really depends on the scenario and what you want to do. You'll draw your starting hands once you've chosen your locations, and our starting hand is determined by our character's hand size, and again it's on your character card. Valeros, for example, has got a hand size of 4, but it can get leveled up. So what that means is, for each turn, he's going to draw a hand of 4 cards. If he uses some of those cards, then every beginning of the round he's going to draw back up to 4 cards. Now remember, I told you that if this deck runs out, this is their life, this represents their life, then those characters are defeated. So you've got to be a little bit careful. A smaller hand size is good in that you're going to go through your deck slower, but it means you've got fewer cards to choose from. But sometimes we can kind of recycle cards and put them back on the bottom of the deck. Alright, so this isn't necessarily a finite thing. It can get recycled as you play the game. But you're going to learn more about that as we get into the game and we start to learn the game as we play. So, for the start of the adventure, I think I'm going to have all my companions heading to the Rusty Dragon. Laughter, music and light fill the cosy common room of Sandpoint's most renowned inn. Travellers and locals enjoy warm food and quaff good ale, all the while swapping stories of adventure and the open road. Now let's draw our characters' starting hands. You'll notice, for the sake of the video, I've just sleeved these cards and ticked off their skill bonuses. That should make it a little bit easier for you guys to follow what's going on. Valeros has a hand size of 4, so we take 4 cards. Every character has a favourite card type. For Valeros, it's weapon. If our starting hand does not contain a weapon, then we would have to redraw. It does. So Valeros is good with his starting hand. Linny has a hand size of 5, and her favourite item is an ally. 1, 2, okay, we've got an ally. 3, 4, 5. Hask, he has a hand size of 5, and his favourite card type is also a weapon. We're hoping for some kind of bow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we've got a crossbow, a light crossbow, and a short bow. Okay, we're good. Now let's start the first turn of the game.